the Minister of Police decide that we are no longer going to investigate Cyril for Palapal. In fact, the information of Palapal is going to be state secret. Nobody can see it. It's because they've paid 1 billion rand for him to be the president of this country. So they can't lose the 1 billion. You know, business doesn't work like that. They don't lose the investment easily. Cyril is the investment. They put 1 billion on the head of that guy to deliver. And you know what was his biggest delivery in 2017? There were two things that we were supposed to do. And I'm diverting a bit, I'll come back, Chair. The first thing that we were supposed to do with immediate effect was to destroy state-owned enterprises, Eskom, SAA. So how they operate, they make them, that's how cruel they are. They don't sell them to business while they're strong. They make them weak so that by the time they sell them, they are cheap. That's why they destroyed Eskom the way they've done. When they tried to destroy Eskom through load shedding, President Zuma, when he was the president, heard about it. And I'm not talking theory. He went and appointed Brian Molefe, who's today a member of parliament, to Eskom. Publicly, he asked Brian to tell South Africans that he's going to stop load shedding. On a media conference, and Brian said, yes, President, I'm going to stop load shedding. That was the end of load shedding. When Cyril took over in 2017, in February 2018, before he went to the World Economic Forum, before he went to his big bosses, he fired Matsela Kuku and appointed someone, and the load shedding was back. So that is part of the strategy. So they destroy these SOEs so that they become weak, and then they can sell it to their friends. SAA, they destroyed it and sold it to their friends for 51 rand. And that's why, comrades, at the core of creating jobs, MK has been very consistent that the first thing that we do when we take power is to restore the state-owned enterprises. Because it is only through the state-owned enterprises that we can create jobs. So that is the only thing. So I'm giving you this history about the destruction so that I locate you to how that is related to work. When I saw somebody that we used to work together. When I was young, I used to work for Telkom. I used to be a union leader there in some union. Oh, you were there? All right. Telkom, when I joined, had 64,000 employees. That was around 1999. By the time I left Telkom, through retrenchments, because they sold 40% of the Telkom shares to the American. And the American wanted to make money. And they cut anything that does not make money. That is why those telephones that you used to find in the streets, those ones that used to put money, they were the first one to close. Because Americans says, no, these are not making money, we don't want them. The second thing that they did, they said, no, we're not making money. And the biggest cost in this country, in this company, is workers. They went for a mass retrenchment that has never been seen in this country. By the time I left Telkom, joining the South African Revenue Service in 2006, Telkom retrenched 44,000 employees. When I checked after 5 years, there were only 10,000 left. You can Google now. Telkom does not have 6,000 employees. That is the system they are using. And who do we retrench? They say, no, we retrench low skills. But But because apartheid didn't allow us to go to school, the low skills will always be black people. So instead of saying we're retrenching black people, they're saying they're retrenching black people. So those thousands of people who were retrenched were black people. And that is why at the core of creating sustainable jobs is the restoration of the SOEs.